Today, we're taking a look at this paper that really shook things up. Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system.
Oh, you mean the one by the mysterious Satoshi Nakamoto?
That's the one.
Yeah.
It's not just some technical document, though. It's like a whole new philosophy of money.
A blueprint for a decentralized financial future.
Exactly. We're going to break down the core ideas behind Bitcoin and see what this whole decentralized future thing might actually look like.
It's pretty interesting how Nakamoto starts the paper. It jumps right into a problem we all deal with. Limitations of online payment systems. You know, the traditional ones.
It does seem pretty simple at first glance.
Yeah.
Enter your card info, click buy, and bam, you're done.
Right. But underneath all that is a whole network of trust and tons of places where things could go wrong.
Yeah, that's true.
This whole relying on third parties thing opens up the door to risks like fraud, right?
Yeah.
You've got transaction fees taking a bite out of every purchase. And maybe the biggest thing is it limits who can even use it.
What do you mean?
Think about the people who don't use banks, can't or just choose not to.
Oh, but
They basically can't fully participate in all the digital stuff.
so Bitcoin tries to solve this by ditching the middleman idea completely.
It offers this radical alternative, a system built on, cryptographic proof instead of just plain trust.
Interesting. It's almost like creating a direct connection, cutting out those middlemen and all the baggage they bring.
Exactly. Bitcoin uses cryptography in this really clever way to make things secure and transparent.
Okay,
Think of it like a coded message, okay?
gotcha.
Only someone with the right key can decode it, right?
Right.
Bitcoin basically does that, but with transactions.
Wow.
Digital signatures ensure that they're actually legit.
Makes sense. So then these transactions all get announced publicly.
Yes, and they're chained together.
I see.
It creates a permanent record of who owns what. It's like a digital ledger that's constantly being double-checked and updated.
A constantly evolving history of every Bitcoin transaction.
Exactly. And it's all kept safe on this thing called the blockchain.
Ah, the blockchain, that mysterious entity we hear so much about.
And you know what's really cool about it?
What's that?
It's maintained by a whole bunch of computers all over the place.
So like a decentralized network.
Exactly. There's no single entity calling the shots. That makes it incredibly tough to mess with.
Because there's no single point of failure.
That's right. And then there's this thing called proof of work, which is a big part of why Bitcoin is so secure.
Proof of work. That sounds intimidating. What's that all about?
Imagine like a crazy complicated puzzle, okay?
Oh, yeah.
One that takes tons of computer power to solve.
I see.
Those are kind of how Bitcoin verifies transactions.
Really?
Yeah, these puzzles help get the transactions added to that blockchain we were talking about. So you have these computers, they're often called miners.
Miners, like digging for gold.
Yeah, that's the idea. They're all competing to solve these puzzles.
A digital gold rush.
Exactly. Whoever cracks the code first gets to add a new block of transactions to the blockchain.
And I'm guessing they get a reward for that.
You bet. They get rewarded with brand new Bitcoins. This whole mining process, it's crucial for keeping the Bitcoin network running smoothly.
So it's not just individual miners working on this, it's really the entire network.
You got it. They all work together to build the most reliable chain, the one with the most proof of work behind it.
So the chain with the most computational power invested in it becomes the official record.
Precisely. This whole decentralized thing, it's one of the coolest things about Bitcoin. It makes it super hard for anyone to manipulate the system.
Even if they have a lot of power.
Exactly. Nakamoto called it a one CPU, one vote system. It's a really neat way to ensure fairness and prevent anyone from messing with the system.
Keeps things democratic in a way.
You could say that. But let's talk about what keeps these miners motivated. I mean, why dedicate so much power to this whole thing?
Yeah, what's in it for them?
Well, as we said, they get those new Bitcoins when they add blocks to the blockchain.
That's a pretty strong incentive.
Right. It's like a built-in reward system for good behavior, and it helps keep the whole network humming along.
Makes sense.
Anything else?
Oh yeah, on top of that, miners also get transaction fees
Transaction fees.
from users who want to bump their transactions to the front of the line.
So they pay a little extra to get their transactions processed faster.
Exactly.
So it's like a double incentive, long-term with the block rewards and short-term with these transaction fees.
You got it. And here's another interesting thing. The number of new Bitcoins being created, it actually decreases over time. So eventually, those transaction fees will become the main source of income for miners.
Wow. That's a pretty unique design.
Yeah.
It's definitely different from traditional currencies controlled by central banks. It sparked a ton of debate about Bitcoin's economic model and how it stacks up against the traditional systems. But before we get into all that, let's switch gears for a second and talk about privacy.
Privacy. With all these transactions being recorded publicly on the blockchain.
Does that mean everyone can see what you're doing with your Bitcoins?
Right, it seems like there might be a conflict between transparency and individual privacy. How does Bitcoin deal with that?
Well, the blockchain records every transaction, sure, but it doesn't actually reveal who's behind them.
So it's not like tracking a specific person's spending habits.
Nope. It uses these things called pseudonymous public keys, kind of like account numbers.
So it's more like seeing the flow of money without knowing who's actually doing the transacting.
Exactly. Think of it like the stock market. You see trades happening all the time, but you don't necessarily know who's buying and selling.
Oh, right. That makes sense.
And Bitcoin takes it even further. It lets users create new key pairs for each transaction.
To make it even harder to connect the dots back to a specific person.
Exactly.
That's pretty clever. It keeps things transparent and accountable on the blockchain, but also protects individual privacy.
That's the idea.
But is that enough? I mean, is this level of anonymity enough to address concerns about, people using it for the wrong reasons?
Well, that's a big question that the Bitcoin community and, well, everyone else is wrestling with.
Yeah, it seems like a complex issue.
Definitely. Some folks worry that Bitcoin's pseudonymity could make it easier to do shady stuff, but then others argue that it's actually more transparent and therefore harder to hide illegal activities.
It's a tough balancing act.
It is. Finding the right balance between transparency, privacy, and security is an ongoing challenge for Bitcoin and really all cryptocurrencies.
It seems like we're just beginning to understand what Bitcoin and blockchain technology can really do.
But like any big revolutionary idea, Bitcoin's got its fair share of challenges.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows then.
Well, one of the biggest issues is scalability. As more and more people use Bitcoin, the network, it can get bogged down,
Things start to slow down.
Exactly. Slower transactions, higher fees, the whole 9 yards. Remember, every single transaction needs to be verified and added to the blockchain.
Which takes a lot of computing power.
A lot. So it's kind of like a highway during rush hour. More cars, more traffic, everything slows to a crawl.
Makes sense. So how does Bitcoin deal with that bottleneck?
Well, it's an area where a lot of work is being done. Developers are constantly looking for ways to improve things.
Like what?
One example is this thing called the Lightning Network.
The Lightning Network?
It's a way to process transactions off of the main blockchain.
Off the main blockchain?
Yeah, so it's like creating a separate, faster lane for transactions.
So that things can move more quickly and cheaply.
That's the idea.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the price of Bitcoin? I mean, it's all over the place. Up one day, down the next. How can something so volatile be like a reliable store of value?
It's a great question, and honestly, it's one of the biggest things holding Bitcoin back from wider adoption.
I mean, I get it. Imagine a store accepting Bitcoin for a product, and then the very next day, the value of that Bitcoin drops significantly.
Talk about a headache. It makes it really hard for businesses to price things and manage their finances.
What causes these wild price swings in the first place?
Well, speculation is a big factor.
Speculation.
Bitcoin's limited supply, its growing popularity, it attracts a lot of investors who are looking to make a quick buck.
So they jump in and out of the market, driving the price up and down.
Pretty much. And then you've got all sorts of external factors.
Like what?
News events, regulatory announcements, things like that. Anything can spook the market and send prices into a frenzy.
So it's this mix of market psychology, speculation, and outside forces that make Bitcoin's price so unpredictable.
Exactly. And that makes it tough for Bitcoin to gain mainstream acceptance as a stable form of money.
Are there other concerns? I mean, things that are holding Bitcoin back?
Oh yeah, there are definitely other things to consider. Security, for one.
What do you mean? Isn't the blockchain itself super secure?
It is, but vulnerabilities can exist elsewhere in the ecosystem.
Like where?
Well, think about exchanges. The platforms where people buy and sell Bitcoin, they've been targets of hacking attacks in the past.
That doesn't sound good.
No, it's not. It's kind of like having a fortress with a weak backdoor.
So what can be done to address these security risks?
Well, exchanges are beefing up their security measures. And users are getting smarter about how they store their Bitcoin.
So it's a combination of better technology and better user practices.
Right. But the risk is still there, and it's something to be aware of.
And then there's the whole issue of regulation.
Oh yeah, governments are still trying to figure out what to do with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies.
It must be a nightmare for businesses operating in this space.
It is. You have some countries that are embracing it, others that are skeptical, and some that are outright hostile.
So it's like a regulatory Wild West out there.
You could say that. It makes it really challenging for businesses to navigate.
But despite all these challenges, there's still so much excitement around Bitcoin. Why do you think that is?
It's the potential, I think.
Potential for what?
For a more open, transparent, and accessible financial system.
A system without all the gatekeepers and middlemen.
Exactly. Bitcoin could make cross-border payments faster and cheaper, and it could give people who are shut out of traditional banking a way to participate in the global economy.
It's like this vision of a truly global financial system, one where everyone has equal access.
That's the dream, anyway. And even if Bitcoin itself doesn't become this dominant global currency, the technology behind it, the blockchain, has already shown us what it can do.
You're right, we're seeing blockchain being used in all sorts of industries now, from supply chain management to healthcare to even voting systems.
It's pretty mind-blowing. It's like this super versatile tool that can revolutionize how we exchange and verify information.
And to think, it all started with this one paper written by a mysterious figure named Satoshi Nakamoto.
It's crazy, right? Speaking of Satoshi, the mystery surrounding their identity, that's got to be one of the most intriguing parts of the whole Bitcoin story.
This mysterious creator. Years and years, people have been trying to figure out who they are, but still nothing.
It's a mystery that's captivated the world. Like a digital ghost, sparked a revolution and vanished.
It's almost like an internet legend. You know, someone drops this incredible innovation, changes the financial world, and then poof, gone. So what are the theories? Who is Satoshi Nakamoto?
Oh, there are tons of theories, some totally out there. Some people think it was just one brilliant coder, working in secret.
The code is pretty elegant, efficient. I can see that.
Definitely points to some serious skill. But others think maybe it was a group of developers.
A team effort.
Bitcoin does pull ideas from older tech, which makes you think maybe it was a collaboration. Plus, the whole project is so huge, the design, the economics, maybe too much for just one person.
Like building a cathedral, you need all kinds of experts working together.
Exactly. So if it was a group, who could it be? Oh man, there are so many names thrown around. Cryptographers, tech groups, you name it. But nothing concrete, no proof.
A true digital whodunit. But there's this one theory, it's kind of wild. What if Satoshi isn't even human? Yeah, what if it was an artificial intelligence?
I mean, AI is getting crazy powerful these days, and you look at Bitcoin, the design, it's so complex, so forward-thinking, maybe it took something beyond human to create it.
Makes you think, right? If Bitcoin was made by an AI, what does that mean for us? For technology? It's a little unsettling, honestly.
For sure, but whether it was a lone genius, a team, or even an AI, the mystery just adds to the whole Bitcoin story.
It's become this cultural phenomenon, way bigger than just the tech or the money.
Yeah.
A symbol of rebellion, the power of ideas to change the world.
And maybe that's the biggest takeaway from all this. Innovation can come from anywhere. Ideas can be more powerful than any individual, and the future is wide open.
Absolutely. The search for Satoshi might go on forever, but their impact is undeniable. Bitcoin has changed the conversation about money, trust, finance, and that's just the beginning. So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Bitcoin. We hope you learned something, and maybe you even have more questions now than when we started.
There's always more to explore.
Keep digging, keep asking questions. Who knows, maybe you'll be the one to crack the code and solve the mystery of Satoshi Nakamoto. Until next time.